Hope creates the building blocks of faith.
Abraham's watching.
Hi there. I'm life coach practitioner Caitlin Townsend, and welcome to Fortunate Faith. And this is my co-host.
I'm Tom.
And today we are going to talk about psychology and faith and kind of bringing in the different elements of science and how to reconcile it with faith. So, yeah. So, because this is our first ever Fortunate Faith, I think we should just introduce ourselves as well. So, Tom and I actually met through working in a psychology lab while in university, taking our bachelor's degree in psychology, and we worked with black-capped chickadees, which are a species of bird here in northern Ontario. So, yeah, it was a really great experience. I think I don't know
No,
Tom's thoughts, but um,
I got to meet Katie there. That makes it pretty good.
oh, okay, I'll take that. um, yeah, so I worked in the lab for I believe it was 3.5 years, and I don't know how long were you, Tom?
I think it was two and a smidge. It was 2 years, and then 2 school years, and then a tiny bit into the next summer.
Okay.
But
So we were both there a fair amount of time because a lot of people pass through kind of like just 1 year at a time. Um, so I think I was there for yeah, I was there for the longest, I think, of anyone who was on
I,
a contract.
I think so too. Yeah. Now that you're bringing it up,
Yeah,
even and Maddie, I think we're only there for 2 years.
yeah. Well, because I was there when the lab, well, right after it first opened. So it was the second set of contracts with Jenna.
Things started to break.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even have birds at that point. We were all field work. Um, so I guess for me, one of the main experiences of working in the lab was kind of getting to see a new sense of creation and how intricate creation really is. So for those of you who don't know, and I'm sorry, Tom, this is going to be a little bit boring for you, but black-capped chickadees, what we were studying was actually their language patterns. So they actually have in their chickadee call, they have a couple different calls, but their main one is the chickadee that everyone's kind of familiar with. Who knows about chickadees anyways? Everyone in the north is familiar with. um, and that song is made up, or bird call, it's not a song, there's a difference, but anyways, so it's made up of 4 notes, and it's almost like the human language. So they have 4 notes, they need to appear, A, B, C, and D are the 4 notes. They need to appear in order, but they can drop it different letters. They can repeat, so a call could be like AAAD, or BC is also a call. So they can use those to make different, I guess it would be like sentence structures in the English language, which is a pretty neat thing to see, because we often think of um, creation as simplistic, especially like in Genesis, the order of creation, right? Birds were kind of one of the first, and we see that progression has things getting more complex as they go along, and like human beings being the final product in the last day. So often, I don't know about your experience, Tom, as well, but my experience in churches has kind of been like, oh, the earlier on stuff is very simple, and God, like, not that he didn't put a lot of effort into it, but it's kind of like the surface level stuff and then gets more complex. But working in a bird lab, you really see the intricate detail that he put into um, creating birds. And especially like later on, there's passages about like the birds of the air. If God feeds the sparrows, how much more will he care for you? Um, and we can kind of write off birds as not being important, which I don't think is what Jesus was saying there. I think he was actually saying, like, look at how much care is for this. There's that much more for you.
And he wasn't trying to put down the sparrow there, I'm sure.
No, no, not at all. No. Yeah, but I think sometimes passages like that kind of give us an excuse, I guess, to overlook some of creation, and that creation stewardship piece doesn't necessarily always come in as richly as it could. You seem very pensive. Did you have a thought on that?
Why do you think it's often that creation gets put down? Do you think it's just because of like the intricacies and everything, like, because I think about the church and I think about people talking about creation, and especially talking about other animals kingdom. It's hard to get away from evolution in some of these senses. And I feel like when I talk about church and the development of animals, it's always a mixed bag depending on who I talk to. So my head's kind of swirling right now with what angle I'm used to hearing, because I feel like there's so many.
Yeah, that's true as well. I agree. And it really depends on um, how conservative the individuals around you are, or what denomination, what different views are. And it's such a broad topic as well, which can be a really good thing because we get those different views and can. But
You're absolutely right.
yeah,
I think Chickadee Lab was a great place to witness all these things. Like, for instance, we talk a lot about what it means to be human in society we have forever. One of the things that gets listed is communication. So when you're challenged with another animal who seemingly has the communication ability that you do, maybe not, is using it. We don't really know exactly what chickadees are saying, but they definitely have the diversity in their calls to be able to communicate in the same level we do. It definitely challenges what it means, for other animals to be, for us to be stewards of them, as well as just what it means, what that relationship between us looks like, depending on how you value those other animals and how you
yeah,
identify with them, or what separates us, or yeah.
yeah,
There's
and I
a
think
lot there to be thinking about, and I feel like it was, you're right, a great environment to be learning it.
yeah, and to be challenged in those areas. And one thing, kind of piggybacking off of what you're saying, like the Imago Deo, which that's not how you pronounce that, but um, it's a
Gonna fool me.
it's a theological term that's just like the image of God, but that's like the Latin for it, which again I don't know how to. I can spell it, but anyways. Um, so when we think about how we're made in the image of God and like what does that mean, and again, like communication has been something that's been traditionally kind of put into that boat, but then you see that animals can communicate, or there's like the use of tools as well, and crows have been found to use tools even, and um, there's so many different things that like what makes us in the image of God, and what is that actually, and I would say like the Bible's very clear on the fact that there is a difference there. We are in the image of God. There's a differentiation between us and animals, but what that actually means, I think we've often got confused about, or maybe we've oversimplified what that means, or we've kind of, um, I mean, it's one of those huge questions to grapple with. What, right? Like, what does, and theologians have grappled with what the Imago Deo is in its fullness for like centuries. We've been grappling with it. So maybe it's just because it's such a big thing that we want those simplistic, like, well, we have language, so that's
Just
what makes us.
just send a message, and that'll be, close enough to the mark. But yeah, no, this Chickadee Lab kind of teaches us that's not enough to speak, but that there's something about the speaking or some aspect of it that must be unique to humans if we're uniquely in the image of God.
Hmm. And then kind of going, not quite so much with chickadees, I guess in the winter they do flock, but like herd behavior as well when you get to like more mammals, and um, often like we'll say, well, being in the image of God, it's not good for us to be alone, which the Bible does say that. And I do think human beings need each other, but I think it's even more complex than that, because you have other animals that herd behavior is a central component to how they organize. Um, so, and maybe it's not even one thing, like maybe being made in the image of God is all the things combined that we have.
Yeah, it's some
But
interaction of X and Y that we can't exactly see. And
mm,
a lot of the times I feel like whenever I read animal studies, people often use animal studies to try to compare those findings to humans, because you
mm,
can't do these studies with humans, because you can't put humans in a room for a week or
yeah,
something.
kind of unethical, just a little.
But it always occurs to me that there's always something lost. Like when you directly compare chickadee communication to human communication, for example, it's there's a lot of people who do like a one-to-one. Like these things are the same thing. They seem to have evolved similarly, and why shouldn't we be treating them the same? But it does feel like it's losing something whenever somebody does that. And I think it's an easy thing to do in science. I mean, any field of science, really, especially when you're looking at things that can be compared to humans. Maybe less so in physics or
Mm.
something like that. But yeah, we're just trying to find generalist principles that apply to humans. I feel like you lose some of those complex interactions with other things.
Yep, for sure. And I mean, it's not that those things don't apply to us to some extent, but
Oh, for sure. But like, there's a
like,
similar problem right now with gene models, right? Like for the longest time, we were trying to find simple explanations with genes. This gene does this, or this gene does this. But really, like they're getting more onto this now about gene networks and that no gene actually acts alone.
hmm
That these complex combinations of all these different things that come together to create X or Y.
yeah,
And I feel like there might be something similar in what it means to be a human. It's not communication, it's not tool use, it's not our social ability. It's some weird complex interaction. And I do worry sometimes that in science and psychology or biology, like behavioral studies, animal studies that try to compare their results to humans or extrapolate results to humans, that
hmm
they're losing that sort of complex interaction of all these little things that come together to make people human or not.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it really, I mean, again, how do you like you can't experiment on humans, so it's like how do you
How do you ever find out what that true result is?
yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean that's one of the mysteries we got, and that's